This is English Conversation Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Conversation Podcast. We're really happy to have you here with us today.
Yes, and before we begin, we just want to say thank you for all your support. Your comments, likes, and shares really help us keep growing and creating more episodes for you.
That's right, and if this is your first time listening, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and of course, share it with a friend who also wants to improve their English.
And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode of English Conversation Podcast.
Now let's talk about today's topic. We're going to explore how to talk about future plans in English.
Exactly. From your plans for tomorrow or next week to your biggest dreams for the future, we'll cover it all today.
So stay with us, practice along, and by the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident talking about your own future plans in English.
That sounds amazing. Let's get started.
So let's start with something very common. People often ask, "What are you going to do this weekend?" It sounds easy, right?
Yes, but many English learners make mistakes when answering, and we're going to look at some of those mistakes today.
Exactly. But first, let's share our own weekend plans. Jim, what are you going to do this weekend?
Well, this weekend, I'm going to visit my grandparents on Saturday. On Sunday, I'm going to study a little and maybe watch a new series.
Sounds nice. In my case, I'm going to meet a friend for lunch on Saturday, and on Sunday, I'm going to clean my apartment and read a book.
Notice how we both used I'm going to plus the base verb. That's the standard way to answer this question.
Now let's talk about the mistakes learners usually make. One common mistake is to forget the verb to be. For example, students say, "I going to visit my friend." That's wrong.
Yes, you need the verb am, is, or are. So the correct sentence is, I'm going to visit my friend.
Another mistake is to mix up the tense. Many students say, "I will visit my friend this weekend." Grammatically, it's correct, but it sounds less natural if you already have a plan.
Right. Will is usually for spontaneous decisions. But if you already have a plan, you should use going to.
Another problem is word order. For example, "I'm going to this weekend study English." That's not correct.
The right order is, I'm going to study English this weekend. First the verb, then the time expression.
So a good answer should look like this. I'm going to study English this weekend. Clear, simple, and natural.
Exactly. Let's give a few more examples. I'm going to play soccer with my friends. I'm going to visit my cousin on Sunday. I'm going to cook something special.
Now it's your turn. Think for a moment. What are you going to do this weekend? Try to answer in your head or even say it out loud.
Great. And remember, use am, is, or are plus going to plus the verb to keep your answer correct and natural.
Okay, now that you know how to answer correctly, let's move on to a little listening activity.
Yeah, good idea. So in a moment, you're going to hear a short audio of two friends talking about their weekend plans.
Right, but before you listen, let's go over 3 keywords that will appear in the audio, so it'll be easier to follow the conversation.
Exactly. So the first word is schedule. A schedule is basically a plan of activities with times or dates. For example, my schedule is full this weekend with work and family plans.
Yeah, and the second word is arrangement. An arrangement is like an agreement or a plan that you have already organized with someone. For example, I already have an arrangement to meet my cousin on Saturday.
That's a good one. And the third word is postpone. To postpone means to delay something or move it to a later time. For example, we had to postpone our soccer game because of the rain.
Great. So we've got schedule, arrangement, and postpone. Keep them in mind while you listen.
Yeah, because here comes the interesting part. In a moment, you'll hear a short conversation where the speakers are making plans, but they might also make some of the grammar mistakes we just talked about. Let's listen in.
Well, to be honest, I'm still figuring it out. I'm going to meet my cousin, and I was thinking to join a course. Maybe I join you now if I good enough can.
All right, let's talk about the mistakes we heard in that conversation. Did you notice some of them?
Yeah, there were several grammar issues, the kind that many learners at a B1 or B2 level usually make. Let's go through them one by one.
First, one of the speakers said, "I going to meet my cousin." The mistake here is forgetting the verb to be. It should be, "I'm going to meet my cousin."
Exactly. And this mistake happens because in some languages, you don't need the verb to be before the future construction, so learners sometimes translate directly. The tip here is, every time you use going to, remember it always needs am, is, or are in front.
Another mistake was, "I was thinking to join a course." That's not correct. The verb thinking is normally followed by of or about plus an ing form. So the correct way is, "I was thinking of joining a course."
That's a really common mistake because learners confuse to as part of the infinitive. But after thinking, you never use the infinitive. You always say thinking of plus a verb with ing.
Then there was this sentence, "Maybe I join you now." That's not right. In English, when you talk about the future in this way, you can't just use the present form of the verb. It should be, "Maybe I'll join you."
Yes. And this is interesting. Many students avoid will and try to use the present tense because in their language, the future might be formed differently. The tip is, when you talk about something possible or not 100% decided, will is the natural choice.
Another mistake was, "Sometimes I'm not sure if I good enough." Here, the verb to be is missing again. The correct version is, "Sometimes I'm not sure if I'm good enough."
And notice this isn't just a small grammar slip. Missing am changes the sentence completely and makes it sound unnatural. So the advice here is to always check your sentence for the verb to be.
Especially after if. Finally, there was, "I also going to practice speaking more often." Again, missing the verb to be. The correct form is, "I'm also going to practice speaking more often."
And what I want to highlight is that these mistakes are not about vocabulary, they're about structure. Learners know the words, but the challenge is putting them together in the right order.
And that's something worth remembering. At a B1 to B2 level, it's not usually about learning new words, but about making your sentences sound natural and grammatically solid.
So to recap, the most important tips are very simple. Always use am, is, or are before going to. After thinking, use of or about with a verb in ing, never to with an infinitive. For possibilities, use will instead of the present tense, and always check that the verb to be is there.
Exactly. That's why exercises like this are so useful. You practice listening, you identify errors, and you learn how to avoid them in your own speaking.
So, before we finish, let's take a quick look at some expressions from today that are super useful when you talk about the future.
Yeah, because if you only say, "I'm going to" all the time, your English sounds a bit basic. At a B1 or B2 level, you can use richer phrases.
For example, one really good one is I'm planning to. This is great when you already have an idea and you are organizing it. For example, I'm planning to start a photography course next month.
Right. And another one is, "I'm considering." This shows that you're not 100% sure, but you are thinking about it. For example, you can say, "I'm considering moving to another city for work."
I like that one. And then we have I hope to. This is perfect for talking about your goals or dreams. For example, I hope to travel abroad next year.
Exactly. And here's another really natural one. "I was thinking of," It makes you sound more fluent when you talk about ideas for the future. For example, I was thinking of joining a gym.
And don't forget, I'd like to. It's softer and more polite than I want to. For example, I'd like to improve my English this year.
So, to recap, I'm planning to. I'm considering. I hope to. I was thinking of. And I'd like to. These are really useful tools if you want your English to sound more natural and less repetitive.
Exactly. If you start using these expressions, you'll notice that your English conversations about the future become richer, more flexible, and more interesting. All right, we've reached the end of today's episode. We really hope this lesson helps you feel more confident talking about your future plans in English.
And if you made it all the way here, thank you so much for staying with us. Don't forget to leave a like. It really supports the channel.
Yes. And tell us in the comments what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. We'd love to hear your ideas.
Also, if you haven't done it yet, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episodes.
Thank you again for listening and practicing with us today.
This was Jim and Wendy, and this is English Conversation Podcast. See you next time.